Hello, I'm Supervisor Don Knabe, and I'm pleased to welcome you back to another episode of Dialed In. Driving around Los Angeles County can be a real headache. Unless you are commuting in the early hours of the morning when it's still dark, chances are you spend a good amount of time in your car sitting in traffic. According to a recent survey by Texas A&M University, the average commuter in Los Angeles spends over 60 hours a year sitting in traffic. To help you get around town more efficiently and without the stress of stop-and-go traffic, Los Angeles County has been working to make our freeways more efficient, expand our public transit system, and make our streets more bike-friendly. I'm pleased today to welcome the CEO of our Los Angeles County Transportation Authority and the Planning and Policy Director of the Los Angeles County Bike Coalition. I hope you enjoy the show. Hi, welcome back to Dial In. I'm here with Art Leahy, the Chief Executive Officer of Metro. Art has over 40 years of transit experience. Before coming over to Los Angeles County, Art led the Orange County Transportation Authority, and previous to that, led the Minneapolis-St. Paul Transit Agency. He started his career as a bus driver. Thanks for joining me today, Art.
My pleasure.
Welcome.
Great to be here with you.
So how was it the early days? Did the buses have wheels back then?
They did have wheels. They didn't have any power steering. They didn't have ramps. They didn't have air conditioning. But we moved a lot of people back in those days.
Was it like in college or?
Well, I was 22 when I hired on. I was a little late to finish college, so I was a full-time student at Cal State LA and a full-time bus operator. So it was a busy time in my life.
Great. There's no better start to running a transit agency than driving a bus because they can't tell you how to do it.
Absolutely right.
Why don't you tell the folks what Metro is? All the kinds of things that Metro does on behalf of the transportation.
As the transportation authority, we're involved in just about everything. We're involved in freeways like the I-5 in Southeast LA County, the 405 project. We're involved in commuter rail, Metrolink. We pay half the bill for that. We run 2,000 buses, 6 rail lines. We're under construction on 5 rail projects. We're involved in the High Desert Corridor and 710 projects. We're involved in bicycles, bicycle paths, bike paths, and access services. So we have involvement in just about everything. We worry about goods movement out of the ports in LA and Long Beach to get goods off the freeways and off the tracks so that we don't have congestion here in LA County. So we get to do a lot of stuff that is designed to help clean up the air in Los Angeles and help with congestion.
How many miles of bus routes or trains do we have here in Los Angeles County?
We have several hundred miles of rail routes. I don't know. We have about 170 bus lines, so we probably have more than 1,000 miles of bus routes. We carry an awful lot of people on all these services.
How many employees does Metro have right now? Total?
We have about 9,500. The bulk of those are bus operators or mechanics, things of that nature. But we also have engineers and accountants and marketing people, managers.
Well, as a member of your board, I also am always amazed at the amount of public works kinds of project infrastructure. And everybody just thinks of buses and trains and, those kinds of things. Give us a magnitude of the public works project, infrastructure kinds of things that we're doing right now for our own rail systems, for our highways. Billions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're the only system in the country that has 5 rail lines under construction at the same time. We just got the federal grant for a $3 billion extension of the subway. We have a $1.5 billion extension of the connector to hook up San Gabriel Valley with the west side and south side, Long Beach. The Crenshaw project is close to $2 billion. We're involved in high-speed rail projects totaling about $1 billion in LA County. The project on the I-5 is $1 billion. So there's a lot of great big projects. We do these things because the voters' approved measure are, and so our goal is to deliver on the promises made when the voters' approved measure are.
Well, we have all these major transit projects and routes underway. What is our schedule completion? Maybe you can give the folks, so let's say Crenshaw, let's say the I-5, let's say the 404 or 5, we're just about done. So.
405 is just about wrapping up. We have some exciting things happening. In about 18 to 20 months, the Expo line will open all the way to Santa Monica to the beach. In that same period, the Gold line to Azusa will open. About 2019 or so, the Crenshaw line will open. Around 2020, the connector will open, hooking up the east and the west and the south. And then around 2023, the segment of the subway that we just started on will open up. But in addition to that, we're looking at other projects, the 710 North and South, as I mentioned, High Desert Corridor up in the north part of the county. So, our goal is to deliver some of the best projects to improve sustainability and mobility in LA County.
So the one question I always get, because obviously it impacts my district and others, but it's a critical element because of the airport, LAX. What's the status of rail to LAX?
Well, I know it's been frustratingly slow for 20 or 30 years. And a few months ago, along with the head of the airport, had a joint meeting with the Federal Aviation Administration and Federal Transit. We've agreed to a program to evaluate two basic options. One is to take a people mover that the airport is now very excited about building and extending that to connect with the Crenshaw line along that area. It's on Aviation Boulevard, or looking at bending the aviation segment over to the west, get closer to the airport. By the end of the year, we'll have an evaluation, a comparison of those two things done, so we can look at capital cost, we can look at operating cost, and ridership. Our goal is, and we're united in this, is to have an attractive, welcoming location for arriving passengers, but also a convenient way for employees, but also travelers to get to LAX from hotels in the south or up in the north or out in downtown LA. So we're making, I think, for the best progress in 20 years.
Well, and I think, the potential there, for those of us that represent that area, I'm always amazed how many people tell me they park in the city of Norwalk, get on the Green Line, and take it to its end and use our bus route into LAX. Yes. So we know that should that ever get completed into the airport, there's going to be a lot of numbers, and folks from Orange County, your old hangout down there, and instead of traversing our freeways. What are some of the ridership numbers in the last few years on our various entities?
It's up. On rail in particular, it's up double digits. The Blue Line has 85,000 riders a day, one of the busiest, if not the busiest, light rail line in the country. The subway is about 150,000 and growing. The Green Line's 45,000. The Pasadena East LA line is about 45,000. The numbers are all really good. Right now, we're carrying about 1.5 million people a day. About 300,000 of those are on rail. So the bus is still the workhorse in the system, and it's always going to be. We still have some of the busiest bus lines in the country. Ridership on the bus lines are up also, but not quite as much.
What about like the Orange Line as an example, the busways? There's a lot of opportunity there, right? They have really taken off.
The Orange Line is a great success on a national basis. Ridership is up around 35,000, 40,000 a day. We're running very tight frequencies. In fact, if we could run more service, we'd have more ridership out there, so we're looking at that right now. The Silver Line, ridership is up double digits as well on that. So, people are showing if we run good service, if it's fast, if it's reliable, a clean bus, they'll go out there and they'll ride it.
Well, and I always said too, is once you put a system together, where you have from point A to point B, and it's reasonable to get on it, and you don't have to do a lot of transfer, people will use it, and that's what they always tell you. Because they, want to compare it to New York City or something like that. Well, we're 30, 40 years behind in New York City.
Yes.
In mass transit, but we can't see. So what are we doing to encourage more people to ride the trains and buses?
Well, a lot of things. During my tenure, 5 years now with Metro, as you know, Supervisor, we had some deferred maintenance, which we've reduced. We're attacking that. We're going back and looking at signal systems, power distribution systems, bringing them up to date. We're buying 550 brand new buses, clean air buses, CNG. We're buying $1.5 billion of rail cars for the rail extensions, and we're improving the daily management of the system. 5 years ago, we had about 60% on time. Today, we're about 77, 78% on time, and we're going to continue to try to improve that number. We're also paying more attention to cleaning up the stations, to make sure the graffiti's not there, to make sure there's not litter. So we're investing in the fundamentals to make sure we run a proper and satisfactory system.
And we're still doing the customer surveys too, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Periodically. So, little controversy. The board recently approved a fare increase, and it's difficult. You're dealing with all the issues of those that are transit dependent, and no one wants to raise fares, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do to be able to enhance the system. What was the rationale behind the fare increase?
Well, basically, we have to pay the bills. The riders pay only about 25% of the cost of the transit system. Operating cost only. The capital is paid for by the taxpayers. If we did not raise the fares by 2016, we would have had a deficit on the order of $35 billion. That's clearly not good. We looked we sliced and diced it every which way to try to find a way of avoiding the fare increase. What I'm most pleased about is that the board also improved, however, for the first time in years, transfers. Right now, today, every time you change buses or trains, you have to pay a whole new fare. When we get this new fare system implemented, you'll be able to transfer from a train to a bus or vice versa, or from a bus to a bus without having to pay a whole new fare. So I think that's going to benefit a lot of people who are low income who today won't ride because they don't want to pay for a whole new fare.
Right, and I think you have up to 2 or 3 hours. It was in the framework of it. And obviously during the commute periods, that's when that's heavy, so that should be able to save the folks some money in the long run, or bring them to the service because they don't have to pay the multiple fares, correct?
I think there's no question about that. We have a bus line that comes down Broadway through Chinatown, but then at Cesar Chavez it turns and goes to East LA. Well, if I'm a low-income person who needs to work in downtown Los Angeles, I'm going to walk 8 or 10 blocks rather than transfer because I don't want to pay $1.50 again. Yeah. That guy in the future will be able to ride on the next bus without having to pay again, so he's going to benefit.
So, we sit as a board and we talk about 10 years from now, 20 years. You just said 2023 and 2032. What do you see transportation in Los Angeles County? Let's say 50 years out.
Well, as you did, I grew up here. And I know that, in the past we would say, we're not New York, we're not Chicago, and we're not. But today there's a recognition that we are, on a world-class scale, we are a big city. And you see changes today that are unimaginable 20 or 30 years ago. If you look at Long Beach, Santa Monica, Century City, Hollywood, Pasadena, downtown Los Angeles even, what you see is a lot of people who want to live in downtown LA is a very rapidly growing residential area. So Metro is not causing that, but we're certainly making it possible for people to live closer in and to get to work or play without having to drive for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Well, and even the Metrolink system, which we're the big funder of for the North County. I mean, the ridership in North County straight up there instead of sitting on that 5 has been amazing.
Well, I rode Metrolink for 4 years when I was still in Orange County and working at Metro. I rode it every day, and it's a bargain. It's so much better than fighting on the I-5.
So from 50 years from now, you see, I think one of the things different than other parts of the country that started with mass transportation front, we are a multimodal transportation area. You're not going to get rid of freeways.
Correct.
And you're not going to get, so you're going to have to sort of live together, and that's what's made the decisions tough, and I think maybe delayed some decisions. But for the future, I think that realization is what you're saying is the regionalization of the area and the impacts that versus territorial.
Absolutely right. And we have subregions, but the fact is it's one economic and social whole. People go from Long Beach to the Hollywood Bowl or from Pasadena to the West Side. That's just how it is.
Get more compliments in those buses to the Hollywood Bowl, I think, than I do anything during the summer. I'm serious. Again, it's taking people off the traffic, but it makes it a comfortable experience. It's a quality of life thing beyond the normal mode of transportation. Yes. Before I close, I've just got to say one thing to thank you, and that is this whole issue of child sex trafficking.
Yes, sir.
And your willingness to step up at Metro and bring it and support me in front of the board to make that an issue. It's a very significant issue, and we know that public transportation is a provider, unfortunately, for that means of transportation. So I wanted to personally thank you on the air for that effort, both at Metro as well as Metrolink.
We appreciate you raising the issue. It's an important thing.
When a child is born, it should be the happiest time in one's life. But for some, it's just too difficult to handle. Think before you do the unthinkable. There is an option. Don't abandon your baby.
Welcome back to Dialed In. My next guest is Eric Bruins, Planning and Policy Director at the Los Angeles County Bike Coalition. Eric studied policy and planning at USC, as well as racing on a cycling team. Prior to his current position, he was a project manager at the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority. He can usually be found on weekends riding his bike throughout the Santa Monica Mountains. Thanks for joining me, Eric.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I got to ask you, did you bike here today?
I did not, but I think
Oh.
one of the great things about LA County is that, there's a lot of different trips, and we have so many different transportation options depending on the right trip.
So what is the Bike Coalition? Maybe you can tell our viewers what the Bike Coalition is, what it consists of, and the players involved.
Sure. So the Bicycle Coalition works to make all of Los Angeles County and all of our 88 cities and the unincorporated areas healthy, safe, and fun places to ride a bike. So basically, we believe that young kids should be able to ride a bike safely in their neighborhood to school, to the store, and go get ice cream or whatever, those memories of childhood.
Well, I know I grew up in the Midwest, and we bicycled every place. That was just a way. I mean, from during the summer to parks and everything else. Now, as I understand it, the coalition, you have chapters.
We do. We have 11 chapters around the county. We touch every single county line, and from Pomona all the way to Santa Monica.
Can you give us an idea specifically where some of our viewers may want to look up one of the chapters?
Sure, absolutely. So Pomona Valley, we have Downey, we have, I mentioned Santa Monica, West Hollywood, Culver City, Santa Clarita, Glendale. I'm sure I'm leaving a few out, and I'm going to have a hard time later on.
Well, somebody will see it and say, why did you mention us? Kind of a
Absolutely.
thing. So how much of the county right now has access to bikeways?
A lot. We have really great destination facilities, the LA River, the San Gabriel River, the beach bike path. I think, and the issue is really the access through the neighborhoods and for transportation in the neighborhoods. And so a lot of people have access in terms of driving to go bicycle for fun. What we're trying to do now is to increase the access to those facilities from where people actually live.
And what kind of access are you talking about? Just be able to park in an area so they can get off, take their bikes off? Because I notice on weekends, you see on the freeways more and more people with bicycle racks and 2 or 3 bikes on the back end.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I would like to live in a place where you don't have to drive to ride a bike, where you can leave your front door and ride on safe streets to access those recreational facilities.
When you say that, I'm just, it's like I say, I'm thinking back to my childhood, and that's the way it was. It was from your front door, wherever you wanted to go, you just got on a bike. And, now we have to sort of plan that kind of a thing. So what are you doing, and what's your sort of vision to make Los Angeles County more bikeable?
Sure. So one of the great things is City of LA and the County of Los Angeles both have bicycle plans. And so we're working very closely with both the city and the county to implement those plans, which call for over 2,000 miles of new bicycle facilities. And in the last couple of years, we've already implemented somewhere between 200 and 300 miles of new bike lanes. So that's huge. We've been going very, very fast. The next step really is expanding the types of facilities and increasing the quality, so that way everybody from ages 8 to 80 will feel comfortable riding on our streets, because the streets shouldn't be the places for the young and the brave and the foolish. They should be places where everybody can feel comfortable riding a bicycle around their community.
Right, and I think one of the things, due to communication and efforts of individuals like yourself, it's also a give and take. There's been a lot of, road bike rage kind of a things where there's the conflict between the automobile and the bike, and I think the communication and the coalition, appears to me at least, has done some great things in the community to say, hey, we've got to be partners in all this, that, it's not, fly around and give the single-digit salute or get mad at each other or try to hit somebody and, kind of a thing. So what are you doing to, on your side of the fence, to say, hey, if we want more, we have to be more friendly as well, too?
Absolutely. So we've really been developing our educational programs, and actually we have a pocket guide that has the rules of the road, and we have also been increasing, we have a program called Operation Firefly, or Operación Luciérnaga, so it's both English and Spanish, that really encourages people to ride bikes with lights at night, and because that's one of the leading causes of collisions, particularly at night, and so we actually give away bike lights to people that we intercept and stop and educate them and give them lights.
Oh, great. Okay. So you don't give away the Caltrans vest either, right? I mean, they should. So May was Bike Month.
It was.
So what kinds of things, that's a very special month for you all, but on an ongoing basis, what are you doing to encourage more people to ride bikes?
Well, one of the things that we did in May is we actually released the results of our last City of Los Angeles bike count. We found that ridership is up overall. More people are riding bikes, and so that's really, really great news. But one of the great things we've also found was that when you increase facilities, when you actually stripe bike lanes, ridership doubles generally. So we've been really showing that the investment is working. And so Bike Month is all about celebrating the fact that what we're doing is working. We need to do more of it.
So what are some of the best places in the county to go out for a nice bike ride? I know the goal is out the front door, but it's not there yet. So as public policy leader and Bike Coalition, what are some areas that you would recommend to our viewers that are incredible biking opportunities?
Well, one of the things I love about Los Angeles County is there's really something for everybody. If you, like me, and you're a roadie and you want to go out and ride in the hills, we have the Angeles National Forest, we have the Santa Monica Mountains. But if you just want to go with your kids on the beach path, we have those too. And so there really is the full range. I'm really a big fan of the river paths. San Gabriel River is absolutely beautiful. It's 50 miles of uninterrupted bike riding. You don't get that in many other places. And if we can complete the LA River, then we'll have something like that in the West County as well.
That'd be great. I know my home backs up to the flood control channel, Los Guardias, and you can get on that path right there from Orange County all the way down to the ocean.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and now it's striped and been blacktopped and everything's good. I don't know if it's because it's behind my house or what, but it's in great shape. And the usage is absolutely amazing, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But particularly on weekends.
And we actually found that in our bike count that bike paths generally have 5 to 7 times more ridership than streets.
Well, and I think just the markings, let people know what to do so there's not the conflict between the walkers and the runners and the bicyclists. I mean, everybody wants to get along. I mean, and I think, by having the proper documentation on the facility, on the ground, it really helps people get along.
Absolutely. And we found that on the streets, too. When you stripe bike lanes, you actually cut illegal behavior like wrong way riding in half. So really, when you design streets to be safe and as shareable facilities, people tend to do the right thing. They want to do the right thing.
And I know safety is a big concern to you, and that's probably one of the things. What are some of the other things that you're doing to keep bicyclists safe?
Absolutely. So the education is a big thing. If we can get people to ride at night with lights, to ride with traffic, to understand how to interact with motorists, that's half of the equation, and the other half is working with agencies like Metro and the city and the county to educate motorists about how to drive around all the new bicyclists that we have on the street.
So obviously the goal is to get people even out of cars, onto bikes, riding to work, whatever it may be, and it's really taken off across the country. Here in the county, we've launched a program called Adopt a Bikeway. Why do you think people are becoming so involved?
Well, I think that's such a great example that people want this in their community. They want to be able to safely walk and bike, and part of that is having nice places to do it. And so if people can, adopt a bikeway and actually have some ownership over the assets of their community, that's an amazing opportunity.
And also, I think you've done an amazing job in your outreach to the Latino community. Maybe you can give us some hints of the kinds of things you're doing in that regard. You've been very, very successful.
Sure. So I mentioned Operation Firefly earlier, and that came out of a program that was generated out of the Latino community. And really what it is looking at the different people that are bicycling. A lot of people do bicycle for economic reasons. Actually, people of lesser economic means tend to bicycle more for transportation. And so looking at who's bicycling and really reflecting that in our programming and doing bilingual education, targeting areas, like Huntington Park and those types of communities where there are a high prevalence of need for bicycling and need for education, and just designing the programs to meet the community's needs.
And one of those pieces of that have become a national model, as I understand. Is that correct?
Yes, the City of Lights program that we now we work very closely with. It's actually formed a separate nonprofit called Multicultural Communities for Mobility, and they do absolutely wonderful work that's targeted specifically to the Latino community.
So tell me the concept. I think is it road or road diet? What is
Sure.
that?
So a road diet is where you are changing the configuration of the road in order to give space to bicyclists, but also generally it's actually done to create turn lanes. A lot of streets in LA are 2 lanes in each direction with no turn lanes, and those are actually really, really unsafe because you have somebody who's driving along and then suddenly somebody in front of them is stopping in the left lane to turn left. And so it's kind of a win-win option where you can improve how the road operates, improve safety, actually reduce collisions by about 1/3, and also happen to create space for bicyclists. And so that's a real low-hanging fruit in a lot of our communities.
Well, what about the separation of road? I mean, Long Beach has taken a street downtown Long Beach and separated it out, so it's actually moved the parking away from the curb and created a real bike lane, not one with paint on the ground, but a real bikeway. And it seems, actually from a policy or planning, it seems to be very workable. I think the problem is people get frustrated because it's taking away parking, but then they don't see anybody using it.
Right. And that's definitely the challenge. I think we need to be constructing facilities like that that really are attractive to that 8-year-old to 80-year-old demographic that I talked about earlier, because that's a facility where you can now, as a mother, you can ride with your kids through downtown Long Beach, and that's really powerful. The issue now is we have to kind of connect that into the neighborhood so that way people can access that safely on their neighborhood streets. So that way it's not kind of a bikeway to nowhere.
I say it's just like public transportation.
Absolutely.
I mean, as our ridership grows at Metro, part of the reason we're starting to connect point A to point B.
Exactly.
And the same thing would probably be with the bikeways and those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
So where do you see the bicycle in 20 or 30 years as a player here in Los Angeles County and its 88 cities and 10 million residents?
Well, I think, we really, as Los Angeles in general is a city of neighborhoods, and people actually, half of all trips in LA County are less than 3 miles. And so those trips that are, just a little bit too far to walk, but maybe don't require a car, that's really the prime market for bicycling, particularly for transportation. And so if we can create the networks that allow people to take those 3-mile trips, that's 15 minutes. It's just as fast to drive.
That's great
as a bike.
exercise, too.
It's great exercise. You get your recommended 30 minutes a day of activity. So that's really the next kind of step, is focusing on
And you won't
those
buy
network
as much
networks.
because you don't have enough room to.
Well, there's been a lot of studies that show that cyclists might buy less per trip, but they will patronize those local businesses more often, so they actually spend more money per month at those local businesses.
Well, Eric, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. Appreciate all you do in the coalition on behalf of bicyclists here in Los Angeles County, and good luck. I mean, I think everything's sort of coming together. People are starting to talk and communicate, and I think there's a real future working together. And who knows? We know here in Los Angeles County we got magnificent areas to walk, bike, or whatever you'd like to do. So again, appreciate all you do, and thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Great, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
You can never know which pool safety step will save a life. Until it does. No matter how safe you feel, adding multiple safety steps can mean the difference between a close call and a call to 911. Simple steps save lives. To learn some new ones, visit poolsafely.gov.
Thank you again for tuning in to Dialed In. I want to thank our guests, Art Leahy and Eric Bruins, for taking the time to join us here today. Metro and the Bike Coalition are working hard to change the transportation landscape of Los Angeles County. From building new light rail lines to adding bike lanes to our streets, our communities have never been more accessible. This summer, ditch the car. Take Metro to a Dodgers game, visit a new neighborhood, or hop on a bike and explore your own. Thank you again for tuning in to Dialed In. We will be back next month with an all-new show.